after I heard about the legend of Marguerite de la Rocque, I soon became consumed with the subject of the French Renaissance, an era when a modern understanding of humanity started to take shape with new ideas of literature and art. I was a new mother of three, pushing my huge double buggy around the streets of Stockholm, staring at my iPhone, daydreaming and trying to make sense of who she was, this young French noblewoman who could read and write and was left to die on an island in the North Atlantic after a sexual scandal aboard a French colonial ship. I believe I wanted to escape my own time, and in order to do that, or try to do that, I used a lot of images that I found on the internet. The first one I saw was a red chalk portrait of Jean-François de la Rocque de Roberval. Here it is. Roberval was the captain who marooned Marguerite, his young relative and confidant, in the archipelago outside of Newfoundland and Labrador. At the time, I didn't know of any pictures of her. I kept Googling for random paintings of the famous people around her. The French king, François Ier, who was Roberval's friend and had appointed him Viceroy de Canada. The king's cartographer and explorer, André Thevet, who would write about Marguerite in his La Cosmographie Universelle, and the queen and author, Marguerite de Navarre, the most powerful woman in Europe at the time, who incorporated a version of Marguerite's story in her famous short story collection, Heptameron. Both the royal siblings and Roberval were portrayed by French court painter Jean Clouet. At my office in Stockholm, I put the images I had found up on the wall by my desk. There was a black and white photo of Le Nouveau Monde découvert et illustré de notre temps, the map from 1575 made by André Thevet that is in the maps collection of the New York Public Library, in which Thevet had divided the New World into three territories: Italian, French, and Spanish. In American historian Elizabeth Boyer's book, A Colony of One, from 1983, I found the anonymous etching of Marguerite on the island. Here it is. It had originally appeared in André Thevet's La Cosmographie Universelle to illustrate his interview with Marguerite. At the time, the marooning was, of course, a very delicate matter, but when Thevet's work was published in 1575, Roberval and the king François Ier were both dead. From what I read, I got the feeling Thevet was as obsessed with Europe's colonial project as I was with Marguerite. And I figured he had met her at a point in his career when he needed to soak up anything about the new world that he could find, since he himself hadn't really been anywhere yet and had to rely on eyewitnesses like her for his own records and research. Pictured in the etching are lots of things that tell us about Marguerite and what happened to her on the island, all the hardships she had to endure. But there are also some confusing details, like the palm tree in the center of the island. Thevet took great interest in everything concerning the New World, but either he didn't know a lot about palm trees, or he didn't take time to instruct the engraver about the nature and weather conditions in this part of North America. As for me, I wondered who had made the drawing and wanted to know what thoughts that person had on this subject. Did the artist too get to meet Marguerite and speak with her? Elizabeth Boyer suggests that Marguerite could have made the drawing herself, but in that case, I wonder why would she have put the palm tree there? Ile Sainte-Marthe was the name Jacques Cartier had given to the archipelago that is now called Harrington Harbour, where Marguerite was marooned. When Jean-François de la Rocque de Roberval put her on the island, he said it was inhabited by wild animals and ghosts and called it Ile de Démons, presumably in order to prevent sailors and fishermen from going ashore there to find her. Later on, Jean-Alphonse de Saint-Onge, who was the pilot of Roberval's fleet, would rename it Ile de la Demoiselle on his routier, maybe as an homage to her. Isle of Demons appears on maps as early as 1506 in many different locations all over the world and in the North Atlantic, which was very confusing to me. Nowadays, it is considered a phantom island and sometimes associated with Kirpan Island in Quebec. Here, it appears on Venetian cartographer Giacomo Gastaldi's 1556 map, La Nueva Francia. Then there is an engraving by Swiss 18th century artist Sigmund Freudenberg, printed in an English 1894 edition of Heptameron and originally made for Les Nouvelles de Marguerite, Reine de Navarre, with caption, the wife reading to her husband on the deserted island. As with everyone who had depicted her in some way in their work, I wondered what went through Freudenberg's mind when he made this piece. Did he think of her the way I did? Was he too obsessed? Maybe not. The hut looks bigger than I imagined it and very tidy, and the palm trees are here again. I also found a portrait of André Thuvet from 1586 by engraver Thomas Deleu, printed in Thuvet's Grand Insulaire et Pilotage. The former Franciscan friar Thuvet is pictured here, as always, with his cartographic tools, his globe and his compass divider, and with a caption describing him as the world's #1 explorer. Like his other books, the Grand Insulaire combines myth, fantasy, and facts in a way that I found inspiring, but also funny and annoying. Thuvet had very high moral standards and such great ambitions for his own scientific understanding of the world. And at the same time, he didn't seem too occupied with accuracy in his writing. But most of all, I fantasized of his meeting with Marguerite, of how he saw her, where they met, what they spoke of, what she was like, and what his thoughts were when he decided to tell her story.